Hello friends, welcome to a brand new series on vanilla JavaScript. So after my HTML and CSS crash course, it's time to learn JavaScript. So many people, what they do before learning JavaScript, they directly jump to some framework like React or Angular or Vue. But you should know JavaScript properly first. So I am creating this course and hopefully it will be a bit long, in which we will first cover all the theoretical part and then we will do some cool projects. So let's get started. So what is JavaScript? So JavaScript is the language of the browser. Any interactivity which you see in a browser like this. So I am going to teach JavaScript in this awesome JS bin, in which we can directly run JavaScript and the console. So what is this console? The browser console, which you can directly right click and do the inspect this browser console. So this JS bin gives me directly everything, so I can directly run it here. So all interactivity in a website comes from JavaScript. Just like this run button, this have an interactive, I am clicking, the event is there. So this is done by JavaScript. So let's directly jump into JavaScript. So we are going to learn all the basics here before moving to some projects. So in JS bin, let first, if the console is open, let me do console.log hello JavaScript, and if I run it, it will show here. Oh, I gave the spelling mistake. Okay, it's okay. So I can clear it and then run it again. So hello JavaScript will be shown. So this is one of the method which JavaScript gives us, this console.log. So beside this console.log, there are some other things also. Actually the console is an object in JavaScript and log is the method of that object. These objects you're going to learn a bit later on. So think like something, it is like there in JavaScript which you can run inbuilt, something which is there in every other programming language. Console.log, I think which we run here, it will run in the console, not in this console also, and the browser console also. So it is a very good developer tool. This is not for somebody external. This console.log is very useful for developers. See, this hello world are printed here. If I clear it, if I run it, this hello world will be printed here also. So there is something more like log we have. Let me copy it. Okay, so console dot error is also there. So let me change it so that we don't get confused. This is an error, and similarly console dot, you have to give the spelling as right, console dot 1, and this is a warning. Okay, so like this we have to pass it inside this brackets and strings can be single quotes or double quotes, and at the end generally we end it with a semicolon. It is not mandatory nowadays, but it is preferred. So let me clear it and let me open the browser console also, because this I have seen this JS bin console, this console.error and one doesn't comes correctly. So if I do it, see, this will come as green. See here, this will come as normal color. Here it is coming as green, but this will come as normal. Error will come at like this, red, and one will come as like this. But in most of the cases we will do console.log only, because this is a developer tool and it is okay. We don't want to be that much fancy to see a red thing or a yellow thing, so it is okay. So after that we will learn about the variables. Let me remove this. What we'll learn about variables. And one more thing which I want to tell, all of my video courses have some return text also. Return text in the means in the sense is that all of them are in the form of blog post also on my site. So you can go to my site and check that in a blog post if you are in a hurry, or if you are more comfortable with the writing material. So the link is always there in the post in the video description, so you can find it from there. Okay, so let us move ahead to variables. So there are three ways to declare variable in JavaScript. Actually before ES6, which was released in 2015, we're not going to cover much of ES6 here. So but some of the main features we are always going to cover. So before 2015, actually JavaScript was there from 1996. So from 1996 till 2015 there was only one data type, which is known as var. So var had many problems. One of them is it is functional scoped and not block scoped. So to solve that problem, let and const have come. So let me show them. Var fname equal to bindu let l name equal to Biswas. And one more thing I want to tell you, in JavaScript we generally prefer camel case. So camel case is that if let me complete it. If I rst first and let me do it name. So it starts with a small, and if this is a different thing, so I can do a name. So in some languages you give underscore, but here it is not. This is known as camel case. So let me give the complete st last name equal to Biswas and const full name equal to, okay, I can use double quotes also, it doesn't matter, Biswas. Okay, now let me do console.log first name, and then control C control V also. Let do for this, let do for this also, and see we have to clear it every time. Okay, so I will run it, it will run like that. So by seeing it for the first time we can see there is no difference in it. So what's the difference? So the real difference comes when we wrap something with the if statement. Okay, so let me remove everything here. Then if statement, as I told that var is functional scope. So this is if statement also, don't worry, we will learn about it later on. So any if statement, it is like plain English only. If this is true, then run this. So most of the coding is like plain thing only, plain English only. If this is true, you can pass something also, or you can just pass true also. Then var num1 equal to 10 and console.log. See, I will do 2-3 console.log. So to differentiate, I have to give something. So in console.log, this is how we print a string. But if you want to print some value, just like I want to print the value of this, then we give this plus operator, and then after that this num1. Okay, so this will print. If I run it, see, if I run it, it will print. So that is okay. So that is a thing which is there in every language. But one thing which is bad with this var is var, let me give it outside, if var num1. So in most languages this is not allowed. Why? Because this is the scope of the if. Anything within this curly bracket should stay here only, it should not come outside. But what is weird in JavaScript, that it is also accessible here also. So this was not acceptable, and because of this there were many issues. So in 2015 they changed it with if the let. So let us do the same thing with let num2 equal to 20. So this is again how we declare variables. So then console.log. Okay, let me copy this only. This is num2, and let me copy this also. Outside if var num2. Now let me clear it and let me run it. See, it is giving reference error. Num2 is not defined at this. So it is giving me error from here. Outside if var, inside if var, this till there it ran, but it is not there. So that means its scope is only from here to here. So outside this, let doesn't exist. This num2 doesn't exist. So this is a desirable behavior which is there only in let and not in var, because let, like in every other modern language, it is block scoped. So as I have told, var is functional scoped. So what is functional scoped? So let me show you what is functional scope. So function, this is how one of the way we declare function in JavaScript. We have the function keyword. This is not there in other languages, but in JavaScript we have this function keyword. Var example, the function name is, let me var num, let it be 3 equal to 10, console.log, inside function var plus num3 outside function var num3. And to call a function, what we need to do, we need to call this function. So let me clear it, let me run it. See, inside function var is run, but this is error. Num3 is not defined because it is actually not defined, because its scope ends from here to here. So this is known as functional scope. So this is there in all languages also, but JavaScript var is only function scope. Every language, what is there, anything inside the curly bracket is not executable, but with var it is only for the function. Inside the function, its scopes ends here, not inside any block. So this is there. And finally we will look into const. So const was also defined in ES6. So what is const? So let me show what is const. So we will learn const a bit now and bit more when we are going to learn arrays and function. So because if I tell array and not array and function, array and objects, everyone will be a lot more confused. So for now onwards, now let's see this const num4 equal to 34 is there. Okay, so if I do console.log num4, so it should work as it is. Yeah, it is work. But what if I reassign it? Num4 equal to 35. See, this thing we can do in any other thing, let also, var also. But as the name const suggests, const means constant. So this is not an assignment to a constant variable, it is directly giving. So this is not enough. For now, let's think const at this much only, that you cannot reassign a variable in a const. Okay, so now we will learn about data types. So there are actually 6 data types in JavaScript. 6. See this. So first is string, then is number, then is boolean, then is null, then is undefined, and then is symbol. Symbol just was added in ES6 and it a bit complicated for this course, so we are not going to discuss symbol, and it is also not used that much even after it was done in 2015 ES6. We generally don't use symbol that much, although symbol is there internally in JavaScript in many things which we will learn later on, but it is not generally used that much. Okay, so we'll leave it in. So first three things which is there in all the other languages, but in JavaScript null and undefined are also primitive data type, which is a bit weird, but it is there. So string, just in any other languages, strings, just we have seen something within the single quotes or double quotes is string. Numbers, any number, and this is another difference in JavaScript. So JavaScript doesn't have any float. In many languages there is an integer and floats are different. In JavaScript both of them are same, numbers. Then boolean is there. Boolean is simply true or false, just in with any other language. Null and undefined we will learn. So null means empty value, but it is assigned by the user, one of the main difference. So they are almost equal and people are generally confused between them. So null means empty values, but it is assigned to a user and it is required to do in bigger project. A lot of time we have to make something as null. But undefined is, it is also empty value, but what is undefined? Undefined is it is not defined. If you don't assign a value to a variable, it is undefined. So we will see all these things now in data types. So let me go ahead and we can use const, because see, that doesn't matter because we're not going to change anything. So it's better to use const for everything in modern JavaScript, because most of the variables we don't generally change that much. So let me do it like this: const age equal to 38c. So this is string, I'm declaring it like this. Age I am declaring like this, number, then const rating equal to 5. We can declare number like this also. Const is developer equal to true. So like in other languages we don't have to declare it like it in C++. If someone knows C++ or C++, we declare int something as something, or something like this, float something as something. So we don't have to do a data type. It is automatically in JavaScript will know this. Okay, this is a string, this is a number, this is also a number, this is a boolean. And if it is required, what JavaScript do, it changes the data type. So that is a that we'll learn later on. So const x equal to null. So we can make any variable as null also. Const y equal to undefined. We can make any variable as undefined also. And const z, let me make it let, because we cannot do it later on. So const so let z or z. So what happens, this will also be undefined because we have not assigned any value to it. So if I do something, nothing will happen. So I have to do a console.log. So there is a operator, again this is the inbuilt thing from JavaScript, which is known as type of. So type of, it will directly tell us what this thing is. So like this. Okay, so I will do for everything type of age, ratings is developer, x, y, z or z. So now everything, let me run. So see, const of name is Nabendu. This Nabendu is a string. So type of name is string. Type of age is number, again 5.5, it is also number. Is developer, it is true. Okay, this can be false also, like this, false. Okay, So let it be true because I am a developer. So this is boolean and this is object. We'll come to it later on. 1 second, after 1 second. So this null is defining as object, but y is undefined, so it is undefined, and z or z, we are not assigning anything and it is undefined. But why this is object? This should be a null. This is an object. This is one of the biggest error or a bug in JavaScript. See, if you go into detail of JavaScript was developed in 1996 within 10 days, only 10 days. It is impossible to develop a language within 10 days. So there were many errors in this, and this is one of the classic bug of JavaScript where type of null, it gives us an object, but it should be null only, but it is an object, and we cannot fix it right now also, because if we are going to fix this kind of error right now, because in 2000 in ES6 they could have fixed it, the ECMA committee which oversees JavaScript could have fixed it, but if they fix it, half of the internet will broke, because many old websites, some of the old programs run for 30-40 years. So what happens in them, some developer must have type of use that type of x equal to object to check the null. So if they change it, that will break and everything will break with that. So this completes our part 1 of the series. I will see you soon in the part 2.